samsaradava nalalidaloka tranaya karuna guna ganatvam praptasya kalyana gunanavasya vande guru shri charanaravindaam Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyan Manasorasena Romancha Kampa Shutaranga Vajyo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindaam Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityananam Shingarathan Mandira Marjanado Yuktasya Bhaktam Saniyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindaam Chaturvida Shri Bhagavat Prasado Swadana Tripta Haribaksha Sangram Kritraiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindaam Shri Radhika Madhava Yorapara Madhurya Leela Gunarupanamna Pratiksha Nasvadana Lolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindaam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindaam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindaam Nikunjayo no rati keli sedhai Yayali bir yukti rapekshaniyai Tatrati daksha ativalabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindaam साक्षादरित्विना समस्तशास्त्रे उक्तस्तथा भायतेव साद्भिः किन्तु प्रभुर्या प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् यस्य प्रसादा भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादा न गति कुतोऽपि जयंस्तु वांस्तस्य यसा त्रिसाद्यं वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् 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 नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशधारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद चैतन्य नित्यानंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद चैतन्य नित्यानंद Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Nila Madhava Radha, Nila Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jai Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari.
Vaishnav Siramani Pati Pavana Shri Prabhupada Maharaj ki jai. Shri Gauri Guru Varga Pati Tudhar ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Guna Sadguru Swami Prabhu ki jai. Namacharya Shri Hari Das Thakur ji ki jai. Ananta Kuj Vaishnavindi ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Gauru Bhakta Vrindi ki jai. Jai Param Dayal Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. Prema Nama Sankirtane ka Janaka Prema Purushottama Shri Satchidananda Shriman Gauranga Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gaur Hari Mahaprana Avatar ki jai. Golokera Pramadhan Hari Nam Sankirtan Jaga ki jai. Yoga Dharma Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai. Brihatmdanga Transcendental Book Distribution Seva ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopagopna Radha Kun Samakun Giriraj Govardhan ki jai. Shri Brajabam Vrindavan Mathurdham ki jai. The Lordship Shri Radha Nila Madhava ki jai. Shri Maya Punavadip Eka Chakradham ki jai. Parama Karuna Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai. Shri Purushottam Ketra Jagannath Vidham ki jai. Shri Shri Jagannath Swami Baladev Prabhu Smasputra Devi Sudarshan Chakra Bhagavan ki jai. Bhakti Sarva Vigna Vinashana Kanishingare Bhagavan ki jai. Jaganga Maya Jamuna Maya ki jai. Tulasi Maharani Virindi Devi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Mathuradharani ki jai. Shamaveta Bhaktavindi ki jai. Nitai Gaurari Pramanande. All glory to somebody bodies. All glory to somebody bodies. All glory to somebody bodies. All glory, all glory, all glory.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladhaladadahine Hiranyakashipurvakshah Shilatankanakalaye Yito Narsimha Parato Narsimha यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहाय बहिर्नरसिंहा हृदये नरसिंहा नरसिंहमदिं शरणं प्रपद्ये तव करकमलवरेणाकाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गां दलिता हिरण्यकशिपो तनुभृङ्गा केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तनुभृङ्गा केशवधृता केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय प्रहलाद महाराज निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल
भगवान की जय जय भक्त श्रेष्ठ प्रहलाद महाराज की जय निताय गौर हरि प्रेमानंदे श्री वृंदाई तुलसी देवाय प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रिय सतवताय तुलसी देवाय प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्राणिनि सतवताय वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्राणिनि सतवताय
नमः तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी
राधा कृष्णा सेवा पावो अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा
राधा कृष्णा सेवा पावो अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा
जितो मारा शरण लो तारा वंच पूरन हो कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी विलास कुंज दियो वास नयने हरि वो सदा जुगल रूपरासी निवेदाना धारो साखीर अनुगाता कोरो सेवा अधिकारा दिए कोरो निज दासी दीना कृष्णा दास कोई जीना मोरा होए श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा जीना भासी श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा जीना भासी नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. जया तुलसी महारानी, जया तुलसी महारानी, जया तुलसी महारानी, जया तुलसी महारानी. जया वृंदा देवी, जया वृंदा देवी, जया वृंदा देवी, जया वृंदा देवी. नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल. नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल, नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल. नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल. श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय.
Vrindaye tulasi devai priyaye kesava satya Vishnavati praridhi sadvataye. Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. O Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of his wishes fulfilled, is so yourself for me to make a resident of the town. My desire is that I was to give me residence, pleasure grows of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of Kavadins of virtue. This gave me the privilege of devotional service and make me all men servant. It's very important, Lord is serving Krishna, please. May I always say in love with Shri Radha Govind. Shri Mati Tulsi Maharaj Devi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhastakam Ki Jai. Chito Ratana Mahatana Pavamada Vamilvapana Shri Akari Vichandika Antaranam Vidya Vadu Jivanam Anandam Budivardhanam Puriparam Purnamrita Sadhanam Sarvatmasnam Paramparam Jayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakarlodha Nira Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pitaniyamita Shmarane Nakala Eta Drushi Tava Kripaya Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Midhi Samyajani Nanuragaha Tunarapi Sunichena Tarorati Saishnuna Amani Namanadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Nadanam Nasundarim Kavitam Bhajagari Shakamaye Mama Janmane Janmaneshwari Bhavatar Bhakti Rahaitu Kitvai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Paritamam Visame Bhavam Buddho Kripaya Tabapara Pankaja Sitadule Sadrisham Vichintayo Nayanam Galorashudharaya Padanam Gadagadharudaya Gira Pulakai Nichitam Papukada Tavanam Agrahane and extinguishes the prior conditioned life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large. God is praised rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govind. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energy. There are no hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once we chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than a straw in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your cause of devotion, service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yes, somehow or other I have fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please bring me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? And will the hairs of my body stand on the end of the recitation of your name? O Govinda, Feeling your separation, I'm considering moment to be 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he sure remains so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, which is my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri Krishnakam Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1, to blaspheme the devotees or dedicated life or propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2, to consider names of demigods and Lord Shiva and Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name Lord Vishnu. 3, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4, to blaspheme the Vedic literature or literatures and pursuits of Vedic version. 5, to consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6, to give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7, to commit sinful activities on strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8, to consider chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which often Vedas as fruitive activity, karma kanda. 9, to instruct the faithless person by the glories of the holy name. And 10, do not have complete faith in chanting the holy names, and to maintain material attachments, if not for understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prem. Now let us offer our sample blessings unto the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desired trees, they can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the following conditions. So,
Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Om Aganya Tirandasya Jnana Chakshurunnilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri
Chaitanya Manavistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale
Swayam Rupa Kadam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Madhavajatamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsa Shri Rupam Sarvajatam Sarvanatam Sarvadevam Sarvetam Sarvadutam Sarvanasayitam Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahabina Adita Shri Vishaka Vitamsa Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Nanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine Shivarsabhanavi Devi Dayitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujjvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Apasiddhanta Dvantaharine Namo Guru Kishoraya Shakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralamba Rasambode Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitanandanamine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gauravir Bhava Bhumestvam Nisdasta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Shri Jagannatayate Namaha Vanchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guru Chuse Namaha Panchatatvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakam Namami Bhakta Saktikam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Suratur Pangur Mama Manda Matirgati Matsarva Swapatam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyadvindaranya Kalpadumadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simhasanastito Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prestali Bihi Sevyamanam Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasaranbi Vamsivata Tatastita Karsan Venuswaner Gopir Gopinatak Striyestuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanustate Devi Pranamami Huri Priye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudi Gaur Bhakta Vindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Chintamani Prakadasat Masukalpa Vriksha Laksa Vrite Susurabirabhipaliantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambhrama Sevyamanam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Kvananta Aravinda Dalayataksham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Sobam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasat Vanavayamamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shamam Tribanga Lalita Niyata Prakasam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chayayanti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vede Sudurlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastakoti Satavatsara Sampragamyo Vayo Ratapi Manaso Munipungamanam Sopyasti Yat Prapadasim Yavichintya Tatve Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chayatum Jagadanda Kotim Yaschakti Rasti Jagadanda Chayayadanta Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusa Suktar Yameva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Pratibhavitabhis Tabirya Eva Nijarupa Tayakalabi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilakma Bhuto Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Premam Jana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santak Sadaiva Hidayesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Amena Tistan Nana Avatara Makarod Bhuvanesu Krishna Mishnam Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pumam Yo Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagaranda Koti Kotisvasesu Vasudladi Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahma Niskalam Anantam Asesa Bhutam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Maya Hiyasya Jagadanda Satani Sute Trigunya Tad Vishaya Veda Vitaya Manam Sattva Valambi Parasattvam Visuddha Sattvam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasatmataya Manasu Ya Praninam Pratifulam Smaratam Upetya Leelayatena Bhuvanani Jayaya Jasram Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nijatamni Tale Chatasya Devi Mahesu Haridama Sute Sutesu Te Te Prabhavani Jaya Vihitascha Yena Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shristi Stati Pralaya Sadhava Sakti Reka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vivarti Durga Ichchana Rupam Apiyasya Chachestate Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shriram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesa Yoga Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakasti Hetu Ya Sambhutam Apitata Samupaiti Karya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Deeparchareva Hita Santaram Abhyupetya Deepayate Vivita Hetu Sanam Dharma Yastadrikeva Hicha Vishnu Taya Vibhati Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narna Vajale Bhajati Sma Yoga Nidram Ananta Jagadanta Saroma Kupa Adhara Saktim Avalambya Param Smamurtim Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasita Kalamatavalamya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadandanata Vishnur Mahansahi Yasya Kala Vishesho Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Basman Yatasma Sakalesur Nijesu Teja Sriyam Kiyat Prakatayat Apitadvatatra Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidanakarta Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha Tvande Pranama Samaye Saganadi Raja Vignan Vihantam Lasya Jagatrayasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahiga Ganamambu Maruti Sascha Kalastatatma Manasiddhi Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Vishanti Yamcha Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschak Suresa Savita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Dasesa Teja Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakra Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmota Papa Nichaya Shrutayasta Pamsi Brahma Dikita Patagavatayascha Jivaha Nradata Matra Vibhava Prakata Prabhava Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrindra Gopa Matavendra Mahosva Karma Bandhana Rupa Falabhajala Matanoti Narmani Nirdahati Kinchuja Bhakti Dajam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Bitti Vatsalya Moha Gura Gora Vasevya Bhavai Sanchintya Tasya Sadrisim Tanumat Varete Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shriyakanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo Truma Bhumis Chintamani Ganam Ayitoyam Amritam Kata Ganam Natyam Gamanam Apivamsi Priyasaki Chidanantam Jyoti Param Apitad Aswadya Apicha Sayatra Siradi Bihi Shavati Sirabi Vyascha Sumahan Nimesar Dakyuva Rajati Nahiyatra Pisamaya Bhajay Sveta Dvipam Tamaham Iha Golokam Itiyam Vidantaste Santakshiti Virala Chari Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Nadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srimad Bhagavatam Grantharaj Ki Jai. Canto 2, Chapter 9, verse number 37. Etan matam samatista paramena samadhina bhavam kalpa vikalpesu namiyuyati karhichit. Etat, this, matam, the conclusion, samatista, remain fixed, paramena, by the Supreme, samadhina, concentration of the mind, bhavan, yourself, kalpa, the immediate devastation, vikalpesu, in the final devastation, na vimuyati, will never bewilder, karichit, anything like complacence. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. O Brahma, just follow this conclusion by fixed concentration of mind, and no pride will disturb you, neither in the partial nor in the final devastation. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. As in the Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, has summarized the whole text in 4 verses, namely, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava, etc. So the complete Srimad Bhagavatam has also been summarized in 4 verses, as Aham Evasam Evagre, etc. Thus, the secret purpose of the most important Bhagavatite conclusion has been explained by the original speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam, who was also the original speaker of the Bhagavad Gita, the personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. There are many grammarians and non-devotee material wranglers who have tried to present false interpretations of these 4 verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But the Lord Himself advised Brahmaji not to be deviated from the fixed conclusion the Lord had taught him. The Lord was the teacher of the nucleus of Srimad Bhagavatam in 4 verses, and Brahma was the receiver of the knowledge. Misinterpretation of the word aham by the word jugglery of the impersonalist should not disturb the mind of the strict followers of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the text of the personality of Godhead and His unalloyed devotees, who are also known as Bhagavatas, and any outsider should have no access to this confidential literature of devotional service. But unfortunately, the impersonalist, who has no relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sometimes tries to interpret Srimad Bhagavatam by his poor fund of knowledge, in grammar and dry speculation. Therefore, the Lord warns Brahma, and through Brahma, all future devotees of the Lord, in the disciplic succession of Brahma, that one should never be misled by the conclusion of the so-called grammarians or by other men with a poor fund of knowledge, but must always fix the mind properly via the parampara system. No one should try to give a new interpretation by dint of mundane knowledge. And the first step, therefore, in the pursuance of the system of knowledge received by Brahma is to approach a bona fide guru who is the representative of the Lord following the parampara system. No one should try to squeeze out his own meaning by imperfect mundane knowledge. The guru, or the bona fide spiritual master, is competent to teach the disciple in the right path with reference to the context of all authentic Vedic literature. He does not attempt to juggle words to bewilder the student. The bona fide spiritual master, by his personal activities, teaches the disciple the principles of devotional service. Without personal service, one would go on speculating like the impersonalists and dry speculators life after life and would be unable to reach the final conclusion. By following the instructions of the bona fide spiritual master in conjunction with the principles of revealed scriptures, the student will rise to the plane of complete knowledge. which will be exhibited by development of detachment from the world of sense gratification. The mundane wranglers are surprised that one can detach himself from the world of sense gratification, and thus any attempt to be fixed in God consciousness appears to them to be mysticism. This detachment from the sensory world is called the Brahma Bhuta stage of realization, the preliminary stage of transcendental devotional service, Parabhakti. The Brahma Bhuta stage of life is also known as the Atma Rama stage, in which one is fully self-satisfied and does not hanker for the world of sense enjoyment. This stage of full satisfaction is the proper situation for understanding the transcendental knowledge of the personality of Godhead. The Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.20 affirms this. Evam prasana manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnana mukta sangasya jayate. Thus, in the complete satisfied stage of life exhibited by full detachment from the world of sense enjoyment as a result of performing devotional service, one can understand the science of God in the liberated stage. In this stage of full satisfaction and detachment from the sensory world, one can know the mystery of the science of God with all its confidential intricacies, and not by grammar or academic speculation. Because Brahma qualified himself for such reception, the Lord was pleased to disclose the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam. This direct instruction by the Lord to any devotee who is detached from the world of sense gratification is possible as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 10.10. Tesam satyayuktanam vachatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhiyogam mam tam yenamam upayantite. Unto the devotees who are constantly engaged in the Lord's transcendental loving service, pritipurvakam, the Lord, out of his causeless mercy upon the devotee, gives direct instructions so that the devotee may make accurate progress on the path returning home back to Godhead. One should not, therefore, try to understand these 4 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam by mental speculation. Rather, by direct perception of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is able to know all about his abode, Vaikuntha, as was seen and experienced by Brahmaji. Such Vaikuntha realization is possible by any devotee of the Lord situated in the transcendental position as a result of devotional service. In the Gopala Tapani Upanishad, Shruti, whenever it says Shruti, it's referring to the original 4 Vedas. That is called Shruti, because that's what is heard. It is said, Gopa Vesho Me Purusha Purastad Avirba Bhuva. The Lord appeared before Brahma as a cowboy, that is, as the original personality Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, Govinda, who is later described by Brahmaji in his Brahma Samhita 5.29. Chintamani Prakadasat Masukalpa Riksha Laksha Vrite Susirabhirabhipaliyantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasam Brahma Sevyamanam Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. Brahmaji desires to worship the original personality Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, who resides in the topmost Vaikuntha planet, known as Goloka Vrindavana, where he is in the habit of keeping Surabhi cows as a cowboy, and where he is served by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune, the gopis, with love and respect. Therefore, Lord Sri Krishna is the original form of the Supreme Lord, Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam. This is also clear from this instruction. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Lord Krishna, and not directly Narayana or the Purusha avatars, which are subsequent manifestations. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam means consciousness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the sound representation of the Lord as much as the Bhagavad Gita is. Thus, the conclusion is that Srimad Bhagavatam is the science of the Lord in which the Lord and his abode are perfectly realized. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O Brahma, just follow this conclusion by fixed concentration of mind, and no pride will disturb you, neither in the partial nor in the final devastation. So why does it say no pride will disturb you? Because pride deflects the concentration of the mind from Krishna to Maya. So the devotee is not not proud of any accomplishment. Rather, the devotee is satisfied completely by seeing that Krishna, the Guru and Krishna are pleased. So someone asked me a question yesterday, and it says that one must be on the same level as Krishna in order to render service to Krishna. Therefore, does that mean that the service that I am doing is not going to Krishna because I'm not on that level of being free from the being transcendental to the modes of material nature? The answer to that is the following. Tat vidi paripatena paripasnena sevaya patekshami te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshana. Krishna recommends in the 4th chapter that one must accept a bona fide spiritual master. Now, there's 2 types of bona fide spiritual masters. There's the Shiksha and Diksha Gurus. Both of them are equal, and both of them are important for one to make spiritual advancement. We discussed that yesterday. And in the right in the Adi Lila 1st chapter, this is explained. And I want to go over it again because this is pertinent to answering the question that was asked. So it says, I first offer my respectful, this is Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, I first offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of my initiating spiritual master and all my instructing spiritual masters. Right before that, in the previous verse that I'm reading now from Adi Lila chapter 1, verse 35. But the previous verse, in the purport, Prabhupada says, the initiating and instructing spiritual masters are equal and identical manifestations of Krishna. Although they have different dealings, their function is to guide the conditioned souls back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami accepted Nityananda Prabhu and the 6 Goswamis in the category of Guru. So he accepted Nityananda Prabhu as his initiating Guru. I explained that yesterday. And he accepted the 6 Goswamis as his Shiksha Gurus. 6 of them, right? So, then Prabhupada says, I first offer my respect, the verse says, verse 35, I first offer my respectful obeisances at the lotus feet of my initiating spiritual masters and all my instructing spiritual masters. So it says in the purport by Prabhupada, Srila Jiva Goswami in his thesis Bhakti Sandarbha 202 has stated that uncontaminated devotional service is the objective of pure Vaishnavas, and that one has to execute such service in the association of other devotees. By associating with devotees of Lord Krishna, one develops a sense of Krishna consciousness and thus becomes inclined toward the loving service of the Lord. This is the process of approaching the Supreme Lord by gradual appreciation in devotional service. If one desires unalloyed devotional service, one must associate with devotees of Sri Krishna, for by such association only can a conditioned soul achieve a taste for transcendental love and thus revive his eternal relationship with Godhead in a specific manifestation and in terms of the specific transcendental mellow, rasa, that one has eternally inherent in him. So, as I explained yesterday, sending your kid to a school in which almost everyone is a demon, the students as well as the teachers, and the curriculum is demoniac curriculum, is a big mistake, because the only way a person can become Krishna conscious is by associating with devotees, not by associating with demons. And the majority of time in these is spent in these schools by these young kids. They spend at least their prime time, let's say from 8 o'clock in the morning to 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, in these schools. The parents don't have their children in prime time. The demons do. And it gets worse as they progress to middle school, and then high school, and then college is the end. It's the end of spiritual life. Because college, it's almost 24 hours a day association with demons. So here it says, by associating with devotees of Lord Krishna, one develops a sense of Krishna consciousness and thus becomes inclined toward the loving service of the Lord. This is the process of approaching the Supreme Lord by gradual appreciation in devotional service. If one desires, so what does that mean? It says, this is the process of approaching the Supreme Lord by gradual appreciation in devotional service. In other words, rather than appreciating mundane life through the internet, through going to these demoniac schools, one should associate with devotees, and through gradual appreciation of devotional service. It means that devotional service is the real connection one has with God. It is not IT or AI or any of those things that connects a person to God. It is devotional service in the association of devotees. And the more one associates with devotees and engages in devotional service, the more one has appreciation of devotional service. If one desires unalloyed devotional service, one must associate with devotees of Sri Krishna. For by such association only can a conditioned soul achieve a taste for transcendental love and thus revive his eternal relationship with Godhead in a specific manifestation and in terms of the specific transcendental mellow, rasa, that one has eternally inherent in him. This is what we're supposed to evoke in the children and obviously in ourselves. This gradual understanding of our eternal rasa with Krishna. That means you'll never fall down from the spiritual world. So, if one develops love for Krishna by Krishna consciousness, Krishna conscious activities, one can know the supreme absolute truth, but he who tries to understand God simply by logical arguments will not succeed, nor will he get a taste for unalloyed devotion. There it is. And it says, the secret is that one must submissively listen to those who know perfectly the science of God, and one must begin the mode of service regulated by the preceptor. Okay, so the preceptor talking about Shiksha and Diksha gurus. Now, this is the key to understanding the answer to that devotee's question. Let me repeat the question. The question is that this person read that one must be on the same level as Krishna to be able to offer service to Krishna. So this person asked, well, I'm not on that level. Does that mean, I always thought that I was serving Krishna when I come to the temple and do service. But does that mean that I'm not serving Krishna until I come to that level? Now, this is a very good question. The answer is this, that one's connection to Krishna is through the parampara. And the beginning of that connection is by accepting bona fide initiation by a bona fide guru in the disciplic succession of parampara. And then, when you offer the service, like if you become a pujari, when you do arti, you have to first put the picture of your guru, a small picture like that, on the altar next to Prabhupada and the parampara. And you first offer to your guru. Now, why did they do that? Because through the guru, the offering passes to Prabhupada, to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, to Gaura Krishna Prabhuji, to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, to the six Goswamis, to Lord Chaitanya, to Vyasa Dev, to Narada Muni, and to Brahma, and to Krishna. And then, to Radharani, and then to Krishna. And then, Krishna sends his blessing through the parampara back to the devotee. So there's an upward movement of the service and a downward movement of the blessing. Okay? That's the answer. Now, if a person is not properly initiated, does not have a proper guru, then that chain is broken. So, let's say the guru dies, or let's say the guru falls down. Is the chain broken? No. If you take shelter of a bona fide Shiksha guru, the chain is not broken. If you don't, if you think, oh, the chain is broken, I don't have a guru, oh, now I can go back to material life. No. Because Shiksha and Diksha gurus, what does it say here? It says, the initiating and instructing spiritual masters are equal and identical manifestations of Krishna, although they have different dealings. So what does it mean, different dealings? It means that the Shiksha guru, or the initiating guru, has already instructed the disciple and initiates the disciple. And by their staunch continuation, by the guru's staunch continuation in devotional service, continues to inspire the disciple throughout the life because they never fall down. And then the disciple, who may not be always with the initiating guru, takes shelter of Shiksha gurus. And you can have one or many Shiksha gurus, as long as they are not disagreeing with the initiating guru. Well, if they all teach the same philosophy, how can they disagree? Okay? If they deviate, then they disagree. So, either the initiating guru deviates from pure Krishna consciousness, or the instructing guru may deviate from pure Krishna consciousness. But normally, that doesn't happen. In extraordinary cases, things like that happen. So therefore, one always has a guru in Krishna consciousness, whether it's Shiksha guru or Diksha guru. And as long as you have a guru, your service is going upward to Krishna, and Krishna's blessing is coming downward to you. That's the answer. Okay, so then the bigger point here, and the very big point, is that how do you become a devotee? It's through association with good devotees. It's not by association with demons. So to subject yourself and your children to associating with demons is a very dangerous thing. The parents go to work with demons, and the children go to school with demons. So, if you insist on doing that, then there has to be a balance. If you spend 8 hours with the demons, then you have to spend 8 hours with the devotees. There has to be a balance. If it's imbalance, if you're spending, see now, where does the imbalance come? The kids don't just associate with demons in school. They associate with demons on Instagram, on the computer, on television, on books, just like that book, Dog Man, right? Instead of God, there's a Dog Man. So those are required readings. You have to read them if you go to school. They give you these books. You have to read this book to graduate, right? So therefore, it's very, very important to regulate or eliminate this social media stuff, because it's just continuing the association with demons. It's not really educating the kid. So there has to be equal or more emphasis on associating with devotees than associating with demons. You have to take this seriously. The parents have to be engaged in the education of their kids. And real education is the 18 points of knowledge. Aman, Yidvam, Adam, Yidvam, Ahimsa, Santir, Ajravam. They have to be educated in these 18 points to become what? Eligible to receive constant benediction from Krishna. See? Because then they'll engage in devotional service and it'll go to Krishna, and then the blessed Krishna's blessings will come back to the child or to the adult. So it continues. It says, if one develops love for Krishna by Krishna conscious activities, one can know the supreme absolute truth, but he who tries to understand God simply by logical arguments will not succeed, nor will he get a taste for unalloyed devotion. Well, what do the scientists say and the philosophers? Well, everything's got to be logical. Logic and reason and science. These are the three authorities or authoritative sources of knowledge. That is nonsense. How can you be logical when Krishna has mutually contradictory qualities? He's far away, he's very close. He has no legs, he can run. He is outside of everything, he is inside of everything. Scientists can't deal with that. That's not logical to them. You see? Mutually contradictory qualities, they can't deal with that. It's beyond their, and this is what's happening now. Why is it that Einstein was not able to complete the unified field theory? Why is it that up until today they haven't been able to complete the unified field theory? Because they're only understanding half of reality. They stop where matter stops. So how can they get an equation that explains everything? It's impossible. They have to have knowledge of Krishna, and knowledge of Krishna is not enough. They have to actually have love of Krishna to understand the unified field theory. So their quest is hopeless. They cannot really add anything as far as knowledge goes to the living entity. They are expert at killing. Look at Einstein. Einstein is the father of the atomic bomb. It's because of his E equals mc squared that the atomic bomb was made by the United States. It indicated that there's a way of releasing tremendous energy from matter, but you have to have, like a special type of uranium, and when you burst it, it releases a huge amount of energy that's inherent in matter. But that just kills people. That doesn't help humanity. And Einstein wrote a letter in 1941 to President Roosevelt and said, you better take seriously this making the atomic bomb. And he pushed him to invest the money, get the scientists to make the atomic bomb. So Einstein's greatest achievement is the atomic bomb, which is the lowest achievement because it's just killing more people faster. This is what the scientists are very good at. And now, what do? Now they have drones. Now they have not only atomic bombs, they have nuclear bombs. And now they have laser weapons. And all they're doing through science is creating better and better ways of killing people, like virus, vaccines, and other things. They're very, very adept at it. But they're not adept at helping people get liberated from the cycle of birth and death because they reject God. They reject the existence of the spiritual world. So what can we learn from them? We can only learn to be a demon. We can't learn anything else. That's how dangerous this modern education is. Okay, so it continues. It says, the secret is that one must submissively listen to those who know perfectly the science of God, and one must begin the mode of service regulated by the preceptor. Who's the preceptor? Is Siksen Diksha Gurus. A devotee already attracted by the name, form, qualities, etc. of the Supreme Lord may be directed to his specific manner of devotional service. he need not waste time in approaching the Lord through logic. The expert spiritual master knows well how to engage his disciples' energy in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, and thus he engages a devotee in a specific devotional service according to the devotee's special tendency. A devotee must have only one initiating spiritual master, because in the scriptures, acceptance of more than one is always forbidden. There is no limit, however, to the number of instructing spiritual masters one may accept. Generally, a spiritual master who constantly instructs a disciple in spiritual science becomes his initiating spiritual master later on. One should always remember that a person who is reluctant to accept a spiritual master and be initiated is sure to be baffled in his endeavor to go back to Godhead. One who is not properly initiated may present himself as a great devotee, but in fact he is sure to encounter many stumbling blocks on his path of progress towards spiritual realization, with the result that he must continue his term of material existence without relief. Such a helpless person is compared to a ship without a rudder, for such a ship can never reach its destination. It is imperative, therefore, that one accept a spiritual master if he at all desires to gain the favor of the Lord. The service of the spiritual master is essential. Now, are these kids accepting spiritual master? Very few. Very few. Yeah, they do some sentimental stuff, but not seriously. See? So, if a person doesn't accept spiritual master, then it's very difficult to reach Krishna, or impossible. The service of the spiritual master is essential. If there is no chance to serve the spiritual master directly, a devotee should serve the spiritual master or him by remembering his instructions. There is no difference between the spiritual master's instructions and the spiritual master himself. In his absence, therefore, his words of direction should be the pride of the disciple. So, you see, in the previous couple of verses, Krishnadas Kaviraj is talking about Shiksha and Diksha gurus, but especially the Diksha gurus. Now he's switched uniquely to the initiating guru in this purport. Okay. Previously he spoke about the instructing gurus. Now he's specifically talking about the initiating guru. In his absence, therefore, his words of direction should be the pride of the disciple. If one thinks that he is above consulting anyone else, including a spiritual master, he is at once an offender at the lotus feet of the Lord. Well, anyone else meaning instructing gurus, right? Such an offender can never go back to Godhead. It is imperative that a serious person accept a bona fide spiritual master in terms of the Shastric injunctions. Sri Jiva Goswami advises that one not accept a spiritual master in terms of hereditary or customary social and ecclesiastical conventions. One should simply try to find a genuinely qualified spiritual master for actual advancement in spiritual understanding. There it is. So then, he says, my instructing spiritual masters are Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Bhatta Raghunatha, Sri Jiva Goswami, Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami, and Sri Raghunatha Das Goswami. So this is Krishnadas Kaviraj. He has 6 Shiksha gurus and 1 initiating guru, Lord Nityananda. The 6 are my instructing spiritual masters, and therefore I offer millions of respectful obeisances unto their lotus feet. Purport: by accepting the 6 Goswamis as his instructing spiritual masters, the author, meaning Krishnadas Kaviraj, specifically makes it clear that one should not be recognized as a Gaudiya Vaishnava if he is not obedient to them. Whoa, that's a heavy statement. Next verse. There are innumerable devotees of the Lord, of whom Srivasa Thakura is the foremost. I offer my respectful obeisances thousands of times unto their lotus feet. So, Srivasa Thakura, or Srivas Pandita, that's the same person, referred to in two different ways, is Narada Muni, the pure devotee, right? Now there's Srinivas Acharya, and there's other Shinis, right? But Srivas Thakura or Srivasa Pandit is the fifth member of the Panchatattva, and it's actually Narada Muni. Don't mix it up with the other Shinis. Right? Next verse. Advaitacharya is the Lord's partial incarnation, and therefore I offer my obeisances millions of times at his lotus feet. So, Advaitacharya is actually Mahavishnu. Okay. He's calling him a partial incarnation, a partial plenary incarnation. Okay. Now this is in contrast with the next one. Sri Nityananda Rama is the plenary manifestation of the Lord, and I have been initiated by him. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet. So, Lord Balaram, or Nityananda, is non-different than Krishna. Only one way is a little bit different. He has a light complexion, and Krishna has a dark complexion. That's the only difference. They're the same person. Now, Advaitacharya is a partial plenary incarnation of the Lord. That means that he's non-different than the Lord, but he may not have all the opulences or all the activities of the Lord. So definitely he's got 4 arms, but he doesn't play the flute, doesn't dance with the gopis, etc. So there are a few differences, but there's no difference. It's the same person, but there's different functions. Okay. So there are partial plenary expansions, and there's partial plenary expansions of the Lord. So therefore, you have Krishna, then you have Balaram, then you have the first chapter Vyuha, and then from the first chapter Vyuha comes Narayana, and then from Narayana the second chapter Vyuha, and then from the second chapter Vyuha comes the Vishnu incarnations in the material world. There's Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu, and from Kshirodakshay Vishnu come many different incarnations. Some are Naimitic, and some are Nitya, and some are Naimitic. So the Naimitic ones are ones that are like mixed animal incarnations. Krishna appears in every species, all the 8,400,000 species. He appears because they're all his children in a sense. They're all his parts and parcels. So and then there's also there's 6 types of avatars. So there's Shaktavish avatar, there's Lila avatar, there's Guna avatar, there's Manvantara avatar, there is Purusha avatar, and there is Guna avatar. 6 types of avatars. They're all Krishna, or the jivas. Some are jivas, like Vyasadeva is a jiva, but he's given a absolute power that Krishna has of literary production. And Narada Muni is a jiva, but he's received power to preach all over the world, all over the universes. So, therefore, these are all part of Vishnu Tattva or Krishna Tattva. Right. Then there are the demigods. They are expansions of Krishna, but they're jivas like us, but they are not on the same level as Krishna to be worshipped. However, sometimes Krishna will take the position of a demigod if there's no qualified person in the universe. Sometimes he'll do that. All right. Anyway, it's a great science. This is the science and mystery, part of the mystery of understanding Krishna consciousness. Only devotees can understand this. The scientists, the philosophers, they can't understand because they're not engaged in devotional service. Okay, so then it says, I offer my respectful obeisance unto the internal potencies of the Lord, of whom Shri Gadadhar Prabhu is the foremost. So who's the internal potency of the Lord? It's Srimati Radharani and all her expansions. She also has expansions. Partial plenary expansions, partial plenary expansions, and so forth. And then he says, having offered obeisances unto the Lord and all his associates, I shall now try to explain these 6 diversities in one. Purport. There are many unalloyed devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all of whom are considered associates surrounding the Lord. Krishna should be worshipped with his devotees. The diverse principles are therefore the eternal paraphernalia through which the Absolute can be approached. Now, this is a very important point to understand. Krishna should be worshipped with his devotees. So, but what do all the false gurus do? They want everyone to worship just them. See? They're not interested in their disciples worshiping anybody else. Right? And they want this exclusive, just them. So, but Krishna, it says here, Krishna should be worshipped with his devotees. So, when Parvati asked asked Shiva, her husband, so who's the greatest person to worship? To her surprise, he says, it's Lord Vishnu. He said, but even better, he said, is to worship anything connected to Lord Vishnu, such as Govardhan Hill, such as pure devotees, and so forth. Okay. So, this is Krishna consciousness. The false gurus, they don't even come close to any of this because they have pride, because they have selfishness, because they're not actually Krishna conscious. They're actually demons. Although I know that my spiritual master is a servitor of Sri Chaitanya, I know him also as a plenary manifestation of the Lord. Purport by Prabhupada. Every living entity is essentially a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the spiritual master is also his servant, also a servant of Krishna. Still, the spiritual master is a direct manifestation of the Lord. With this conviction, a disciple can advance in Krishna consciousness. The spiritual master is non-different from Krishna because he is a manifestation of Krishna. That doesn't mean the spiritual master is God. It means simply that he's a representative, a bona fide representative, let's put it like that, of Krishna. Lord Nityananda, who is Balaram himself, the first direct manifestation or expansion of Krishna, is the original spiritual master. He helps Lord Krishna in his pastimes. And he is the servant of the Lord. Every living entity is eternally a servant of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Therefore, the spiritual master cannot be other than a servant of the Lord Chaitanya. The spiritual master's eternal occupation is to expand the service of the Lord by training disciples in a service attitude. A spiritual master never poses as the Supreme Lord himself. He is considered a representative of the Lord. The revealed scriptures prohibit one's pretending to be God, but a bona fide spiritual master is a most faithful and confidential servant of the Lord, and therefore deserves as much respect as Krishna. So you see in the case of Bali Maharaj, when his spiritual master, Shukracharya, violated Vedic knowledge, he asked him to do something that was not bona fide, that which was, don't give anything to this dwarf Brahmana. But he also told him that this dwarf Brahma is actually the Supreme Personality of God had come in disguise. Don't give him anything. So this put Bali Maharaj in a dilemma because his guru is ordering him to do something that is not bona fide. So therefore, he had to ignore his guru's instruction. And then Shukracharya became very angry. He said, "What? You're You're not following my instruction, you're supposed to follow your guru. Well, not if the guru tells you something that's against Shastra, that's against the truth. And then he cursed him. He said, I curse you that you lose everything you have. Inside, Bali Maharaj was happy because he said, well, it's okay. If I lose it all to Krishna, it belongs to him anyway, so I'm not bereft of anything. So he accepted his guru's curse. Yeah. According to the deliberate opinion of all revealed scriptures, the spiritual master is non-different from Krishna. Lord Krishna, in the form of the spiritual master, delivers his devotees. Purport. The relationship of a disciple with a spiritual master is as good as his relationship with the Supreme Lord. A spiritual master always represents himself as the humblest servitor of the personality of Godhead, but the disciple must look upon him as the manifested representation of Godhead. Acharya mam vijanayan namame manyeta karichit namartya budhya suyeta sarvadeva mayo guru. One should know the Acharya as myself and never disrespect him in any way. One should not envy him, thinking him an ordinary man, for he is the representative of all the demigods. Purport. This is a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam 11:17-27, spoken by Lord Krishna when he was questioned by Uddhava regarding the four social and spiritual orders of society. The Lord was specifically instructing how a brahmachari should behave under the care of a spiritual master. A spiritual master is not an enjoyer of facilities offered by his disciples. He is like a parent. Without the attentive service of his parents, a child cannot grow to manhood. Similarly, without the care of the spiritual master, one cannot rise to the plane of transcendental service. The spiritual master is also called Acharya, or a transcendental professor of spiritual science. The Manusamhita 2.140 explains the duties of an Acharya, describing that a bona fide spiritual master accepts the charge of disciples, teaches them the Vedic knowledge with all its intricacies, and gives them their second birth. The ceremony performed to initiate a disciple into the study of spiritual science is called Upaniti, or the function that brings one nearer to the spiritual master. One who cannot be brought nearer to a spiritual master cannot have a sacred thread, and thus he is indicated to be a Sudra. The sacred thread on the body of a Brahmana, Kshatriya or Vaishya, is a symbol of initiation by the spiritual master. It is worth nothing if worn merely to boast of high parentage. The duty of the spiritual master is to initiate a disciple with the sacred thread ceremony. And after this samskara, or purificatory process, the spiritual master actually begins to teach the disciple about the Vedas. A person born a Sudra is not barred from such spiritual initiation, provided he is approved by the spiritual master, who is duly authorized to award a disciple the right to be a Brahmana if he finds him perfectly qualified. In the Vayu Purana, an Acharya is defined as one who knows the import of all the Vedic literatures, abides by their rules and regulations, and teaches his disciples to act in the same way. Only out of his immense compassion does this personality of Godhead reveal himself as the spiritual master. Therefore, in the dealings of an Acharya, there are no activities but those of transcendental loving service to the Lord. He is the supreme personality of servitor Godhead. It is worthwhile to take shelter of such a steady devotee, who is called Ashraya Vigraha, or the manifestation or form of the Lord, of whom one must take shelter. If one poses himself as an Acharya, but does not have an attitude of servitorship to the Lord, he must be considered an offender, and this offensive attitude disqualifies him from being an Acharya. The bona fide spiritual master always engages in unalloyed devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By this test, he is known to be a direct manifestation of the Lord and a genuine representative of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Such a spiritual master is known as Acharya Deva, influenced by an envious temperament and dissatisfied because of an attitude of sense gratification. Mundaners criticize a real acharya. In fact, however, a bona fide acharya is non-different from the personality of Godhead, and therefore to envy such an acharya is to envy the personality of Godhead himself. This will produce an effect subversive of transcendental realization. What time is it now?
7:21.
Okay. So we'll stop right there, continue tomorrow. Because now in the first chapter, Adi Lila, it gives a long explanation of the 4 nutshell verses, which is what we are studying right now. But this gives supplementary information about the 4 nutshell verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So this is all unalloyed nectar. You have a question?
One quick question.
Yeah.
What is accepting Shiksha Guru means? Like, is it something that in the heart of the devotee, or is it?
I mean, is there an initiation ceremony?
Not any. I mean, that's known, but is there like a qualification of who is the Shiksha?
Well, let's say you have a guru, but he's not always present, right? Might be on the other side of the world all the time, and maybe only comes once every 3 or 4 or 5 years. So you should also have 1 or more Shiksha Gurus who can continue to give you constant instruction, right? Who you can ask questions to, who you can ask, how can I serve? And, should I invest in, should I serve in this way or that way, right? So there always is a guru, either Shiksha or Diksha Guru, especially in ISKCON.
So anybody who is helping you with the devotional service.
Yeah, some people help you in devotional service, right?
Yes.
So there's 3 types of gurus. There's Vartma Pradakshika Guru, the person who introduces you. There's Shiksha Guru, the person who instructs you. So there can be 1 or more Shiksha Gurus. And then there's Initiating Guru, one who initiates you and instructs you. And it can continue till the end of life. So you're always going to have a guru, either Shiksha or Diksha Guru. You see how Prabhupada has, or Krishna has not left anything to doubt. Right? So it's just like a tapestry. You have horizontal and vertical threads. And the tighter you pull them when you're making the tapestry, the better and the longer that tapestry or that rug will exist. So you have Shiksha and Diksha Gurus, right? And you pull the threads very tight by regular hearing and chanting and strictly following rules and regulations. Therefore, you're set for life, for eternal life. Okay? Okay. Unfortunately, in ISKCON, the position of the Shiksha Guru is not completely, let's say, emphasized. It's going to be in the future because it's Shastric. It's just that, anyway, there are reasons why that happened, and it's still happening. But that will change in the future and come to the real Shastric point. Haribol. Okay, so time for Guru Puja. Who wants to chant the Guru Puja prayers? Anybody want to chant? Go ahead. Come on.
Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma.
Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma.
Bando Muhi Savadana Mate.
Bando Mui Savadana Mate.
Chahara Prasade Bhai E Bhava Toriya Jai.
Jara Prasade Bhai He Bhavatoriya Jai.
Krishna Prapti Hoy Jaha Hoy Te.
Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoite.
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Kya.
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Kya.
Arena Koriya Mane Asha.
Arana Koriya Maneya Sa.
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati.
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati.
Je Prasade Pure Sarva Asha.
Prasade Pure Sarvasa.
चक्षुर्दान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से.
चक्षुदान दिला जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से.
दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो.
दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो.
प्रेम भक्ति जहा होते अविद्या विनाश जयते.
प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जयते.
वेदे गाय जहर चरितो.
गाय जन्नर चरितो.
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदम जनारा बंधु.
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अदन जनर बंधु.
लोकेनाथ लोकेर जीवाना.
लोकेनाथ लोकेर जीवाना हो.
हा हा प्रभु करो दया देहो मोरे पदचाया.
आहा प्रभु कोरा दया देहा मोरे पादचाया.
एबे जास गोषेक त्रिभुवाना.
देवे आस्कुस्तुति भुवाना.
शीला प्रभुपाद पतिता पवाना.
प्रभुपाद पतित पवाना.
जयो प्रभुपदा जयो प्रभुपदा जयो प्रभुपदा जयो प्रभुपदा.
जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा. प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा.
नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Bhashyata Deshatarine
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Bhashyata Deshatarine
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya
Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Nitya Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitya Gaura Hari Bol
Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararajkachasta Tarasatra Shri Shrimad His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Swami Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapura Dham Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premananda. All glories to the Simple Devotees. All glories to the Simple Devotees. All glories to the Simple Devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavani Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Devi Sesa Sanyasi. Let's go. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. our spiritual masters, the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and Lord and Master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful.